All right, how's it going out there? Good evening. Welcome back here to a Tuesday night, July 29th, 2025. It is 9:44 p.m. That's California time here. I am back in the earthquake office. I took a little day trip here with Missy Mimi's and the kids over to the Pacific Ocean around Fort Bragg today. That's why I was over there, just for the ones asking, what am I doing around the ocean? Well, this big earthquake here happened while I was out there along the Pacific Ocean. Now, the tsunami warning here for California we'll cover here in just a minute. I know that's pretty important. But first, what caused all this earthquake activity? Well, it's a pretty giant earthquake called a megaquake out here, an 8.8 earthquake, the largest event since 2011. You guys remember the 2011 9.1 earthquake there down around Japan? I tell you what, folks, we've been chatting about this area for a number of weeks here, and it looked very similar to what was taking place in 2011 with the sequence of events in terms of the magnitude levels out here, right? Although this one took a little bit longer than the 2011 sequence there. It took 2 days, right, from the some earthquake activity to the 9-pointer, but very similar. Okay, so we're going to cover that here in just a minute, but 8.8, let's get straight into the Tsunami Warning Center, where there is still tsunami threats all over the place here. Now we got warnings in the red for the Aleutian Trench up here, a portion of the Aleutian Trench. Let me zoom in just a little bit here and show you guys. In the red, advisory here for a good portion of Alaska and the west coast. BC area all the way down to Baja California is now in a tsunami advisory. Let's go ahead and check out the latest information here for we're going to check out Hawaii real quick, okay, because they're out there in the middle of the Pacific. They're going to be the ones that are going to get it first. Now, these are the measurements or reports of a tsunami wave activity around Japan, right? This is some Japan, Alaska, certain measurements here, but there is still a tsunami warning for the Hawaii area. Obviously, a tsunami has been generated. Estimated time of arrival there in Hawaii of the first tsunami wave is at looks like 7:17 p.m. Hawaii time. So they're obviously behind my time a number of hours there. But this is definitely getting closer in terms of the potential. I know they're evacuating the coastlines out there around the Hawaii area. This is the reports or measurements. I mean, it looks like the biggest one here, there was a DART measurement. Let's go over here and check out a different statement here. That's for Hawaii, non-US and Canada. Here is the West Coast, Alaska, BC region, tsunami. Well, it says tsunami warning remains in effect. Tsunami advisory remains in effect here. So for California, there's for California tsunami warning. The coast from Cape Mendocino all to the Oregon border. And then you got the Aleutian Islands here for the warning. Now, it looks like the advisory here extends from the Baja California area, Mexico border there, including the San Francisco Bay region, all up and down these areas. So you got California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, South Alaska, and the Alaska Peninsula. Aleutian Islands, all these are underneath the tsunami advisory. The warning here for now is for the Cape Mendocino area of Northern California to the Oregon border. For some reason, those guys are going to get a little bit larger tsunami here. Check this out. So for California here, I was just over in Fort Bragg. This was just a day trip. I had no clue there was going to be a big earthquake over there. Or at least it didn't happen there, but across the Pacific it did. Fort Bragg now is expecting around 11:50 at night. I got out of there. I'm safe. I didn't intentionally put myself out there on the beach. We were already out there when the big quake happened. So 11:30 or 11:50 tonight, they're expecting somewhere around just below a foot to 1.3 foot tsunami. So that's going to be above the typical tide level out here. Now up north here in the Crescent City, a little bit larger. That's why they're underneath a tsunami warning there. That is almost a 5-foot tsunami around the Crescent City area. It has to do with the land as the water rushes in there, how it builds up in terms of the water height. Same for the Port San Luis area, about 3.7 feet there for a potential tsunami. And it's an ongoing, evolving thing here for sure. And that is for as the West Coast, as I mentioned here. Non-U.S. Canada Pacific threat number 6 here. Still got nothing's changed here. Let's see what we got. Tsunami waves reaching more than 3 meters above the tide level are possible along some coasts of Ecuador, the northwestern Hawaii Islands, and Russia. So this is what you call a Pacific-wide tsunami, and as you can see here on the map, it's good to just look at this and see which areas are covered here. There are some statements. There's the meters. It shows you guys the meters here potentially for water column height or the tsunami height. Again, there's a little portion there in Northern California that's in a tsunami warning, and that's because of this land, the way the wave comes in here, increases and intensifies the wave height out there across that area. That's why we could see tsunami up to about 5 feet there around the Crescent City area. Further down south into San Francisco, still underneath the tsunami advisory. The warning is a step up from an advisory. So still watch that. Look at this buoy. Let me refresh this and show you guys. This is pretty crazy. I haven't seen this thing lit up like this since, well, a long time. Look at this. Even areas down there south of New Zealand are picking up some type of water displacement. It was a big earthquake, folks. An 8.8 significant size earthquake. It didn't originally come in like that. It came in as an 8.0, which is a big enough earthquake. And then it got bumped up to an 8.7 and then an 8.8. So some of these are being registered here. This is just offshore off the Kamchatka. There's a couple different meters here, maybe at least a meter and a half of displacement. That's offshore, though. As it comes inland, obviously that can be run up much higher out there. This was picked up over there in Alaska as well. And one out here into the Northern California area. We're offshore here. Just a little bit of a difference. Now, obviously, the tsunami has not reached out here. It is expected to reach Hawaii here. Well, I don't see anything in event mode out here yet, but this should light up fairly soon as the wave makes its way across the Pacific. Right now, that is not being triggered here, but we'll watch that closely. Look at this down south here. There's just a huge adjustment out there across the area of the Pacific Plate and the Kamchatka. I've been telling it, been kind of talking about this for, a lot of videos here in the last couple of weeks here since we had that big sequence of, everyone thought it was just a 7.4, but the way the sequence of events happened out there. Let me show you guys that real quick. Okay, I want to talk about that. This is the area that had the 8.8 today. If we go back the last 30 days here, there was a swarm of earthquakes in the yellow and white, some older earthquakes. So we'll go over here to the oldest first. This is what triggered my suspicion here that this could be foreshocks to something much bigger here. And it looks very similar to the 2011 Japan sequence of events. They had a very similar setup. It started off there with one earthquake there on the 19th of this month with a 5-pointer. And then, bam, about 20 minutes later, 6.6 came in, thinking, okay, that could be the main quake. But that wasn't the case because just a little short time later, we seen a 7.4. But look at all these earthquakes in between these two main events, right? And then we started to see a bunch of 5s and a bunch of 6s. And that led me to believe here, with the amount of time that has passed since the last big mega quake out here, which was 1952, that all of this previous earthquake activity, previous to today, could be some foreshock activity. The only difference here in the setup is that it took a little bit longer from this event till today's date, right? At 6.6, 7.4, it took 10 days. It took about 10 days for the big main quake to happen out here. There's so much more. Like I said, it takes 1,000 7-pointers to equal the equivalent of a 9-pointer out here. And this area had a 9-pointer back in 1952, same area. Now, there is what looks like some migration moving down south here, but I'm thinking what this is, it's not just a small portion that ruptured. There's a good segment here that ruptured in that 9.0 or the 8.8 8.8 magnitude along the Aleutian Trench here. Or excuse me, along the Kamchatka. It's been a long day. We went over to the ocean there to get away from the heat and a little bit of R&R. I did not plan to rush home and take my work with me over there, but it's crazy how it worked out. Anyway, there is some a little bit of migration here that looks like it's southward, but I don't think that's the case. It's just because there was a good portion out here that ruptured with this 8.8 earthquake. Now, the USGS did put out a little article here on this 8.8. They call it the 2025 Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia earthquake. Big earthquake, let me tell you. Fairly short and simple in terms of the tectonic summary. All right, look at that slip rate there, about 77 mm per year. Doesn't take hundreds and hundreds of years to build up steam and momentum for that big of an earthquake there. And again, the last 9-pointer was back in 1952. It is a major subduction zone, and it's got the consistent faulting of this fault plane solution there with a subduction zone of the Kamchatka arc. Pretty decent rupture right there of a larger fault. Reverse faulting events of the size of this earthquake are typical, about 390 km by 140 km in size, length and width. And they just go to chat about a number of earthquakes out there as well. But there we go. We're mentioning that 1952 9.0 earthquake. When this 8-pointer struck earlier, I thought that was it. Until I got the notification that it was upgraded with it. If it had just been an 8-pointer and we didn't see that larger upgrade yet, I would potentially think that this is leading to something bigger here, like a 9-pointer. But I believe this has released a good considerable amount of stress here. An 8.8 is pretty darn close to a 9-pointer, and it's much more powerful than that 7.4 and a bunch of 6s that popped off out here. So I'm really not concerned with anything bigger out here. We will see, though, what we will see is probably, and we haven't seen them yet, is some 7-pointers out there. We've seen some that are close. The largest aftershock so far, and just remember all those other earthquakes there, the 7.4 and all those other 6s there in the last 10 days were just foreshocks. You go back on any of my videos, and I kind of talked about how this was looking a little sketchy, that it could be building up into something bigger. And like I said, it took a little bit longer, but I knew something was in the works here. So far, the largest aftershock is 6.9. Couple minutes later, 6.3. I wouldn't doubt it if we do see a 7-pointer or two. I don't know if we'll see the equivalent up to an 8-pointer or an 8.8. I don't think so, but we do have to watch for some decent 7-pointers coming in here. We got 33 earthquakes of, as you can see, a bunch of 5s and quite a few, 2 6s in there as well. So watch for that. The Earth is ringing, trying to recover. Look at these S waves. I can only imagine what this looked like earlier. I wasn't home, but the waves out here were probably crazy from the 8.8 that struck out here, ringing the Earth like a bell, and it happens. Well, I got to tell you guys a very interesting thing here, though, real quick. When I was up here in Fort Bragg, which is just, there's Ukiah. Fort Bragg's right here, towards the southern end of the Cascadia, right? I was up here to a beautiful park called the McCarricker State Park, right up here. There was an earthquake up here of a 4.5, just shy of the Cascadia subduction zone. That was at 1618, okay? Now, if you look over here at the main quake, that was at 1624. So literally 6 minutes prior to that big earthquake today, we had this event. And I made a little short about it, a little short video. And it originally came in as a 4.8. But that is very sketchy here, right? Just shy of the southern end of the Cascadia. And then 6 minutes later, we get that big earthquake out here. This leads me to believe here that this big event saved us temporarily, for now, from seeing this thing rupture out here, the Cascadia subduction zone, the southern end. and that would have been a dandy because I would have felt it, and I was, like I say, this was supposed to be an R&R trip here, not to go out and experience any large earthquake or tsunami. But I think with this earthquake happening 6 minutes prior to the big one here, that it was one of those things here. It was just about ready to pop. The pressure potentially released. I do believe it released out here in terms of backing off, right? We seen that happen with the 9.1 earthquake in 2011. A little release out here, relief for the California area. And I believe, like I said, I think we're close, but it went this way. The general plate motion out here, if you look, is off to the west-northwest. So when things shift in this area, it does temporarily relieve strain out here across that area. Pretty crazy, though. I mean, I don't recall the last time I've ever seen a 4.8 just shy of the Cascadia subduction zone here. Yes, we've had a lot of activity here in towards the southern end, but everything's gone quiet. Tremor stopped, and now all of a sudden you get a 4.5, originally a 4.8 here. But then 6 minutes later, here comes the savior, so to speak, with the 8.8. Pretty big earthquake. That was coming, right? I've been showing this map here a lot in the last week and a half, thinking that we were going to see this soon here. This is just the on average earthquakes that we should see each year. Well, now we can scratch this off here because obviously an 8.8 earthquake, that's a great quake, close to a 9-pointer, not quite, but it is it's a big one there. Our last 8-pointer was back in 2021. So it was coming. And these were just telltale signs here in the last 10 days previous to today's event. And it was showing goodness. So let's double check here the tsunami page real quick, see what we got. Still a tsunami. Well, yeah, they show up here tsunami advisory, but it's best to go here on the map, look and see what's up. There's still a warning here across the area of the Aleutian Trench. Tsunami warning for Hawaii. The current buoys out there across Hawaii, I'm going to double check and make sure we got the most recent data here. I don't see anything in event mode here yet. The expected arrival time there. Let's go check this out here. Refresh this, make sure. We're going to look at Hawaii number 6 right here. These guys showing an 8.7, but it has been upgraded to an 8.8 earthquake. So the estimated arrival time there of the first tsunami wave is at 7:17 p.m. Right now, let's see here what we got. It's 7 right now. 7 p.m. Hawaii time. So here within the next 15-20 minutes, we should get the first wave there. But I am not, like I say, I'm not seeing it show up here across any water displacement regions here, but they could potentially light up here in the next 20 minutes. Either way, get away from the coast out there because of that potential tsunami coming in. I got a lot of questions. What are you doing next to the water out there? It's like that's where we were when the big earthquake came in, and it's a state park. We were underneath a tsunami watch when that happened here. That's one of the lowest advisories, right? They've just upgraded that there to a tsunami warning, pretty much around the area. Well, just north of the area where we were in the red. We were down here south a little bit. But had this been a warning, and an imminent tsunami, of course, I would have hightailed out of there, and we would have got kicked out anyway because the state park, they're going to evacuate the region. But the tsunami was hours out, and it's still it's supposed to be about 11:50 or so when it comes into this area. But right now, this is the main area here in Northern California that can see up to about a 5 foot is what they're saying there for Crescent City. 4.8 foot, I believe they dropped it down to there across the area for tsunami height. But main areas right now, Hawaii, still got the Aleutian Trench up here underneath the warning. 1 to 3 meters over there. That's interesting. up to a meter. Yeah, that's, oh yeah, like I say, we haven't seen anything like this in since 2011. Pretty crazy. So anyway, this is from the tsunami.gov website for the latest information here. These guys keep going back and forth on the magnitudes, 8.8, 8.7, but I'm pretty certain, they're sticking with the 8.8. That is just a big earthquake. When was the last time you seen something like that? It's crazy. And there's going to be, wow, what's happening down here? Guatemala. I wonder, that's a lot of swarming going on down there across that area. I know they've had some earthquake activity down there recently, but that is extraordinarily elevated. I wonder if something shifted and potentially leading to something bigger out here. That is the Middle America Trench, which is capable of a similar magnitude as to what we just seen up there off the coast of Russia. Yeah, things have they've shifted. It's interesting though. Let's see. So the general plate motion here is to the northwest. Something tightened up down here when the Pacific plate shifted. There's definitely a notable swarm here occurring off the coast or within the Guatemala area. This is 6 miles or so underneath the region, and it did start off, it looks like, excuse me. Hold on a second here. I'm not for sure what's going on. So it does look like there's been some type of tsunami observed at the Midway Islands, Sand Island, Midway Islands, United States of America. About a 7-foot tsunami wave that is located between the U.S. It says U.S. mainland and Hawaii. Let's see here. That is, yeah, it's definitely interesting there. Hold on a second. No, it's not located between Hawaii and the U.S. mainlands. It's located between Hawaii and the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench here. I was just reading what Missy Mimi sent me. So that's going to be back over Midway Islands, back over here somewhere. But anyway, that's, oh man, that's a, right there. You can see it. 1 to 3 meters is what's expected, and I guess they got it like a 7-foot tsunami there. So that's what, 3 feet per meter. I would cover it. So yeah, the wave looks like it may be coming still for Hawaii. Let me go see here real quick. I don't see anything being triggered out here yet, but it doesn't mean that it's not coming, because there is some there's Sand Island, Midway Islands right there. Is this one working? It's offline. This is just temperature. But anyway, we'll definitely continue to watch that here. Either way, I guarantee you this is going to be up for the majority of the night here until they can definitely ensure that there's no more tsunami threat out there. But as of right now, tsunami warning still in the Hawaii area. A little portion here in Northern California for a tsunami warning, and advisory here for a good portion of BC area south to the Baja California region. Tsunami warning up here across the Aleutian Trench. Advisory here for a good portion of the Aleutian Trench to the east. I'm not for sure why they don't have areas into the Gulf up here of Alaska lit up. but it's still there, folks. Stand by here for just a second. Something's going on. I think that website's pretty darn slow there. Got probably a overload of traffic there. So that wave is just coming in now. It should be arriving here across the Hawaii area pretty soon. American Samoa. Let's see what we got here. Tsunami advisory continues there for the American Samoa area. Of course, anywhere out there in the Pacific. I don't know if it's going to hit all the way down to the South America area. I don't see anything listed. Well, there is, yeah, they actually got that down there in Chile as well, 1 to 3 meters. So this is definitely a Pacific-wide event, 1 to 3 meters. Obviously, that arrived much later. Pretty crazy, folks. So I am going to, I need to get something to drink here. Like I said, I just got home. I don't see anything changing here across California, but there has been definitely some triggering going on. Something locked up there across the Guatemala area that's adding further strain with a big swarm going on there across Guatemala right now. You know, just when this thing moves, it takes, you know, there's other plates that kind of follow it out here, and it looks like something really put the strain on here across the Middle America Trench. So just watch that closely. I still feel like I'm experiencing shaking or something going on. I wonder if you can feel that. I know this was a long ways away here, but it almost seemed like back in the earthquake up there in Alaska, I felt like waves coming in. Like really weird. I could sense like these waves coming in, but it might just be my imagination. I don't know. You know, these waves travel around the globe, and they make these seismograph stations there look crazy. They're supposed to be flat lines, but these are all just waves of vibration, kind of humming, so to speak, through the through and around the Earth. That's pretty crazy. But for now, like I say, there's 2 areas of interest here. We'll continue to watch for some 7-pointers up here. I don't think we're going to see anything larger up in that area, and 8.8 is a pretty good release of pressure there, much more so than a 7.4 could ever do. But this back here is of interest as well. So we'll watch this. I'm going to take just a little short break here. I need to get something to drink. I just walked in the door and kind of help Missy Mimi's here with the kids and jumped on to do an update here, but I need to take just a little break, and then I'll be back here in about 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll cover this and see if anything stirred up there in Hawaii by then. So I'll be back here in a little bit, folks.